Funding for this series has been provided in part by the following.
Bang & Olufsen. Sound, craft, and design since 1925.
My dream is being free to tell my story.
I play the life-changing kind of music.
These songs are just really important parts of my DNA.
I have an opportunity to give people hope.
Okay, let's have some fun. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. This is very exciting. Michael, I understand you have a book.
Yes.
Tell us about, I'm going to do my Johnny Carson. I understand you have a book. How does that feel? All these wonderful accolades, and now you're an author. How was that?
Well, I mean, it's surreal, really. I don't think I've been this nervous about doing anything for a long time.
Really?
Coming
Wow.
out here and talking about a book. But I'm my ace in the hole is this guy right here, without whom there would be no book, that's for sure.
Well, not quite true, but
he was my cheerleader and truant officer all at the same time. You know.
well, it started very selfishly because I wanted to read it. I said, would you write a book? I'd like to know who are you? I've been a fan of Mike's forever, and I never really understood the story. And we had met a couple of years ago, and then we became friends. And then I would ask him things periodically. I said, well, I don't understand. If you're with Steely Dan, how could you also be with the Doobies? It doesn't make sense. And then he would explain it to me, and I go, okay. And then like a week later, I would forget. And so I jokingly said, you should write a book, and then I wouldn't have to bother you all the time. And this was March of 2020, so it was just when lockdown started. And Mike, luckily, you said, I've thought about it sometimes, but I don't know how to write a book. I go, well, I've written a book or two, plus we got nothing to do now for a couple of months. So we just started talking, we just on Zoom, and then he would tell stories, and then we wrote them down and put them in order, and there's a beautiful book. Were there surprises to you? Going through it?
Yeah, many. So much of what I thought was true that wasn't true as we looked into it, dates and places and times and things. But for me, it would seem like a daunting task for anyone to write down what they think encapsulates their life experience. But we had a great time doing it.
But I have to say, for not having understood the Michael McDonald story, I now understand it. I didn't know how big music was in your house growing up.
Yeah, very, very, very much so. My dad was a singer, and popular singer in the St. Louis area. Had appeared on TV in this area, but he mostly kept it in his amateur status. He didn't do it for a living, but he loved to go and sing at all the saloons in the North County and St. Louis area. And back in those days, in the 50s, any good saloon on the corner always employed a piano player, a good piano player. There was a lot of great piano players, people you wouldn't expect to be in a saloon on a Saturday afternoon, but they would play for the customers, and that was kind of a staple in that arena, in that area of social life. And so my dad got to know a few of them, some of the better ones, really, and they loved having him come down and sing,
And so a lot of times, and what was, to me, the great fun of the book, Mike would just say something very casually and not realize how funny it was or how rich it was. I go, say that again. And one of the things you said early on, you said, the reason I'm a singer, he said, I'm a singer because of my dad. I said, oh, really? Did he push you? He said, well, no, really. If my mom had trusted my father more, I wouldn't have become a singer. I went, what's that? So, because your dad would go out, as you told it.
Well, my dad was a veteran of World War II. For most of us who've grown up in that era.
Fans of the war?
he was a Marine in the Pacific, and you know they didn't have the moniker PTSD back then. But one of my dad's residual, I think, looking back on it all, the effects that his experience in the war had on him was he couldn't sit still. You know, he always had to keep moving. You know, four walls around my father was like torture. You know, he always had one foot out the door, and my mom understood that, and she was fine with it because he didn't drink, but. And she knew that he loved to sing, and he loved the camaraderie of that scene, if you will, with his friends, the piano players, a few different ones, and you know, he never walked in a saloon in North County where people didn't immediately yell out, "Hey, Bobo, sing a song," you know. And he actually sang for a young senator from Massachusetts during his first run for president, John F. Kennedy, at a big rally in
And
St. Louis.
The song he sang was?
It's a great day for the Irish.
There you go.
And,
so perfect.
I used to tag along with my dad, and you know, our drill was he would get me my Shirley Temple, and he would get his Pepsi Cola, and he would go get ready to go up and sing, and I would sit on the windowsill behind the piano player, sucking down my grenadine and club soda. The bartender was kind enough to call it a Roy Rogers, you know, for my sake. But and I would sit there and I would watch the piano players. They were all great, but Ida Burns was his probably his favorite piano player, and he was her favorite singer. And I would watch Ida's hands glide effortlessly up and down the keyboards and just be mesmerized by this whole harmonic world that she would create. And my dad would step up at the microphone and with his Irish tenor voice soar over the top of that, and the crowd would love it. And I watched him bring the house down time and time again. Well, one night or one day, I put my Roy Rogers down. I walked up to Ida and I tapped her on the shoulder from behind the piano. I said, "I'd like to sing a song," you know. And I was about 5, yeah. And she just kind of looked at me like, she goes, "What do you want to sing, honey?" And she looked at my dad, and she looked at me, and I said, "Love is a many-splendored thing." And she just kind of looked over her glasses like, yeah. She goes, "Okay," you know. And so she played this kind of intro, and she realized I'm not gonna have any idea where to start. So she ends with this "can't miss it" starting note, you know. And I belted out, for all I was worth, "Love is a many-splendored thing."
How many people find their career at 5? But what did they listen to in the house? What was the music of your
Well, my
home?
sisters and I grew up being introduced to a lot of great music. We had a great love, the McDonalds, for a good song and a great songwriter, you know. Because my parents, they always seemed to know who wrote that song. You know?
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And we
pretty
had
good.
an uncle, Johnny Sadler, who wrote, I guess, some well-known songs back in the Tin Pan Alley era when you don't think you make money nowadays. You really didn't make money back then. And apparently he was a heroin addict, and he laid in bed and with a guitar and wrote "Heart of My Heart" and
Really?
the wedding bells are breaking up, this old gang of mine, and all these like World War I kind of mostly sold just in sheet music, you know.
But so you heard this. You heard country. You heard Ray Charles and Etta James. And what tickled me most personally when you started talking about your first band, because I went, that sounds like my band when I was 12. We weren't it was called the Upper Deck, my band, and we were very popular in my building. Really, it was a narrow.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say really the bottom floors mainly. We didn't make it to the top, never did. But you had. Tell them the name of your band, my friend.
My first real band, my sister was our manager, Kathy, and we were called Mike and the Majestics.
I love that you got top billing.
Yeah, I
Mike.
got top billing. I think that was my sister's idea.
Oh,
but,
nice.
But yeah, and we played our first gig. She got us a gig for $9.
Sure.
At
That's huge.
a women's PTA group luncheon at this Episcopal church in
Yes.
Ferguson. And the pastor came up somewhere in the, after our first break and handed me the envelope with the $9 and said, "That was great, boys." I said, "Oh, we have a whole other set of music." He goes, "That won't be necessary." So he paid us to stop,
Yeah.
you know.
Here's money. Go
That's
away.
not the last time that's happened in
Yeah,
my
I
career.
know. So, but you were really working as a kid. I mean, you were 14. See, I never knew any of this. You were 14 and you joined, what was it, an 18-piece band? Jerry,
14-piece band.
14-piece
It was
band.
the Jerry J and the Sheratons.
Who were kind of big in St. Louis.
Yeah, they were kind of a renowned soul dance band. You know.
And they're all 18 and 20 and
Yeah,
21, and you're
myself
14.
and the two of the singers, myself and Chuck Sabatino, he was 15 and I was 14.
So you're playing, and what was the Castaway Club, which is kind of
Castaway
famous.
we were the house band at the Castaway Club, yeah.
Okay, so here's little things that Mike would just throw out casually, like, yeah, you know, we would back up whoever was coming to town. I backed up Chuck Berry and Howlin' Wolf and go back, what? You're 14 and you're playing behind Chuck, or how old were you? Chuck Berry comes into town.
What, 14, 15, you know, I wasn't 15 when I left the band, probably.
Wow.
You know,
How about the Stones on You? I'm going to leave this band because I'm 15 and I'm going places.
yeah.
I'm going to move these people
Yeah,
aside.
you know, it wasn't my best thinking never really got me too far.
No, it's working out for you. Okay, it worked out.
Yeah.
But so now here's another cool fact. Now, I was not aware of Jerry J and the Sheratons, but your first gig, your big gig, when they flew you to New York to play Shea Stadium.
Irv Satnowski was a guy who owned a music store, and he was a great guy, sweetheart, and very supportive of young bands. And he got us a sponsorship with Vox Instruments, and we got to make a demo tape, and we were the Midwest representative band, and there was a West Coast and an East Coast band. I don't remember the East Coast band, but the West Coast band was an acid rock band, which was just kind of new to all of us, and called the Orphan Egg. And looking back, they were great, you know. But so the three bands met in New York at Forest Hills, at the Forest Hills Music Festival, to open for. They carved out this opening slot for these bands from Vox.
But the headliners were huge.
Was Simon and Garfunkel, and the Doors.
So you're thinking you're opening for the Doors. This is pretty big.
And we thought, you know, in our cardigan sweaters and our patent leather shoes and, you know, our houndstooth slacks and dressed exactly alike to get on the airplane. We were dressed alike. I'll never forget people looking at us walking by going, what the hell is, what's going on here? Yeah.
It's the King family.
Yeah, right. And then, of course, we were all in middle seats, but, you know, that seemed to be a theme throughout my life. So we went to New York to play, and we thought, you know, when we come back, we're going to kill this thing, you know, because we had choreography. We had a little strobe light that one of the guys' fathers made, and so, you know, our last couple numbers, we had the strobe light going, and, you know, we were awesome, you know, and the horn players would swing their horns over each other's heads, and with the strobe light going, there was a lot of busted lips and, you know, near fist fights and stuff. But we were awesome, and we thought, you know. And we thought, we get up there. Well, first of all, we found out we have like 10 square feet to play in. And it was a huge stage with lighting trusses.
But you guys are here.
Yeah, we're like here at this postage stamp. And so we didn't realize we're going to be going on about 5:30. And still daylight. There's no lights.
And the crowd's not in yet.
Yeah, the crowd's still looking for their seats. You know, we thought, well, we open for the Doors. If nothing else ever happens, you know, we always say that. Yeah.
So I was trying to follow the trajectory, and it took an effort to find the through line. So there were a couple of bands, and then you left them. You did a couple of other bands, the Guild, the Blue, and then what got you out to California? Now you're 18, and somebody hears you sing with a band, and his brother is a big producer in L.A., Rick Gerard, right?
Right.
Who produced
Jefferson Airplane. Jose Feliciano's first album with Light My Fire, Aerial Ballet by Nilsson.
Yeah. So he sends you tape, and that basically says, come on out to California and make a record. That was your plan. You had nothing else. You knew nothing.
Yeah, no, I didn't need to hear any more than that. You know? And I had good friends who really were in the music business back there at the time, and who, you know, could look at this contract and go, you don't want to sign this, you know. But I wasn't having it. I said, you know, I may never get this chance again. You know, I got to go, you know. And so my good friend at the time said, you know, well, go ahead, you know, and, you know, but just don't give away your publishing, whatever you do. You don't need to give away your publishing.
Right.
That belongs to your kids. You know?
Right. You're
So,
18.
Yeah. So
What kids?
first thing I did when I got to California was sign away my publishing. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway,
That's
luckily
how you learn. You live and learn.
you live and learn. Yeah. And,
So what impressed me, so this guy, Rick Gerard.
and given those songs, I think they got the worst end of the
Yeah,
deal.
okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So Rick Gerard says, okay, we're going to make a demo, and he's going to then shop that to, he had an independent label, or he had his own.
He had just gone as an independent production company.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a staff producer at RCA.
So you're 18, this is 71,
70. 1970, yeah.
He finds a song that a publisher in the UK sends him. Try this, Mike, and he makes a record. The song that he picked was.
It was a song written by an unknown writing duo, Elton John and Bernie Taupin. And
See if you can make this crap work.
yeah, and it was a song called "Take Me to the Pilot," which I loved because it was it's like the kind of music I like. It was a gospel kind of song, and the metaphor for the lyric was for a kind of a spiritual. A higher level of thought. I liked it, and I thought, wow, that's just a great song.
On the basis of that demo, they went, yeah, this kid's good. Sign
Yeah,
him.
I got signed to RCA.
So now you're making an album with not your band. So they bring in musicians who are like, it turns out,
Like the Wrecking Crew guys.
The Wrecking Crew, like-
and
played with Elvis on Tuesday and the 18-year-old kid on Wednesday.
yeah. At which point, I remember on one of the sessions, the drummer leaned over to me, and goes, Mike, he goes, the first one to the chorus doesn't get the solo. It's
Yeah, you don't have
try
to-
to
you don't have to
relax a
speed
little
up,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah. So
you cut the album.
cut the album. We found out that song, I thought, wow, this is a great start for my album. I love this song, and the band played the heck out of it. We found out that it was the actual track from Elton John's first album,
Yeah.
which was coming out that month.
Yeah. So you didn't get it.
No.
No.
That song was gone. But we wound up doing an album full of my songs, and like I say, for better or worse. But it was a wonderful experience, and I learned so much.
One of the gigs you got that you told me, and again, pure accident, somebody asks you, hey, I got a gig, I can't do it. It's put together a band for a party, for a rap party, for a TV show.
I met a girl who was a bass player who worked, she was pretty good at working, and she said, I got this gig for New Year's Eve. When New Year's Eve was always a big night,
Sure.
You made more money usually on New Year's Eve.
And they're drunk, they won't remember.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And she goes, it's a rap party.
And you have to put together the band.
Put together the band.
Because, organizational skills are really
Not my
strong
strong
suit. Yeah.
Well, and she said as much. She said,
yeah.
she goes, look,
Don't wait.
I know you. She goes, do not wait till the last minute.
Cut two.
Yeah, so cut to me a week out. I've got a sax player sitting across from me. We're smoking a joint, and I'm got my head in my hands. I'm going, I am screwed. She is going to kill me. I said, there's no way, no way in hell we're going to get this together. And he's looking at me. He goes, I know some cats. He goes, they actually play sessions mostly. He goes, but they're working on an album right now, and they're working during the day. They're usually done by 6 on this project, so they might want to do it just for fun. I go, oh, that would be too good to be true. I said, well, we don't have any time to rehearse, and he just kind of laughed. He goes, Beth, he goes, these cats don't need to rehearse, man. He goes, you just make the chord charts, put the songs in the right key, and just pass them out. They'll handle it.
So these people you happen to.
The drummer was Jeff Porcaro. The bass player was Mike Porcaro. David Page came down and sat in with us for a while. Kent Henry on guitar. And that was about it for us.
LA is just teeming with all these musicians who basically
Yeah,
defined
it
the
was
70s
basically
and the
Toto
80s.
came down and sat in with me. They weren't Toto yet, but they were actually, the album they were working on was Steely Dan's Press of Logic.
Right.
And
And you at the time you were just a huge fan.
my favorite band in the world, and I was just so jealous hearing these stories.
How do
on
these guys
our
get
breaks.
it?
Like,
Yeah.
how do you get a gig like that? And so we did the gig. We had about 2 hours worth of music. We got through the 2 hours. The place was more than happy.
But this is what I love these sort of random things. So your friend happens to get Jeff Porcaro. Cut to, it's like a year and change later.
Yeah.
You get a call. Jeff Porcaro's looking for you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the same girl, as a matter of fact. She calls me. She goes, Jeff Carl called me. He's looking for you.
Right.
Here's his number. She wants you to call him back right away. So I'm like, wow, I never really expected to hear from him again necessarily. So I call him and he says, hey man, we're finally going on the road with this album.
The Steely Dan.
Steely Dan album. He goes, they're looking for somebody to play some keyboards and sing backgrounds, sing. And I knew you could sing the high parts, on this stuff. So, why don't you come down and audition? I said, great. When should I come down? He goes, like right now. And so I threw my Wurlitzer in my Ford Pinto and I drove down there. And the
No
guys,
preparation.
No
You don't-
preparation.
yeah.
I didn't really know that many of their songs. I knew the ones I loved.
Nobody
but
knows how to
it was
play
about
those
3
songs.
songs.
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't know how to play them.
Yeah.
But I was so adrenalized and determined to get that gig
That's
that
crazy.
Donald just kind of taught me the songs and the background parts. We're rehearsing, and about 5 hours later, I realized I think I'm in the band.
Yeah. They don't tell you.
Yeah, no, and
Because usually that would be like 30 minutes and thank you.
yeah. Hey, we'll call you.
We'll call you.
So
because they didn't throw you out, I must be in.
yeah, and Jeff kind of gave me one of those, and so I thought, wow, this is.
And then you're in Steely Dan.
Yeah, which
That's how it happened. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. The end of that tour, they kind of did have their famous, we're changing things up.
Everybody's fired. Yeah.
Everybody's fired.
Yeah.
Nice. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
On the way out.
So now you're back in the States and playing the Trojan Room in Pasadena.
Yeah, which particularly smarted because I was doing Steely Dan songs at the Trojan Room,
That you just
in
played.
Glendale, yeah.
That's
To
so sad.
a couple of pretty uninterested barflies, that was about it.
You should have seen me last week.
Yeah. Yeah. I know these guys.
Yeah. So now you have reason to think, all right, my career's over. I'm 20. I'm playing Pasadena for the 3rd time. So then I said, well, so out of the blue comes another call. This is what I'm trying to explain to you people. There's no reason for any of this to happen.
Yeah.
So you get a call from...
I'm home for a while. I'm back at the Trojan Room, and I get a call from, again, the same girl. She calls, Jeff Baxter called you, and...
What is she, like the switchboard operator?
yeah, she was kind of everybody knew her.
Everybody goes through
yeah.
her. Wow.
So she goes, Jeff
One
Baxter,
moment, please.
left his number. He wants you to call him. So I get
So
this
Jeff
call.
Baxter, who was in Steely Dan.
He was with the Doobies at this point. He was in Steely Dan, yes.
He had been.
And now he was out touring with just about anyone leaving town. I mean, he would get on the bus with every band going out there. He played
So
with
now
the
he was
Eagles,
already with the Doobies at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jeff says, listen, we need somebody. We thought maybe keyboards might be nice for a change, and we want you to come down and you could take some leads. And I told these guys you could handle it. So now I'm not even auditioning. I'm just showing up, for the gig. And I said, well, I don't really have enough money to fly to New Orleans. He goes, don't worry about it. Your ticket's there. There's some per diem when you get here.
More free money, per diem.
Yeah, more free money. And just, put your keyboard in baggage and they'll meet
Get
you
out
at the
here.
airport.
And at least you knew you were familiar with their songs. I mean,
Yeah,
you
and I
could
was.
play.
I had played many of them at the Trojan Room, and
See? You're just warming up. So 2 days of rehearsal, and then you're playing arenas.
yeah,
And,
with a lot of little sticky notes all over my piano. Yeah.
and then you're a doobie. You're in the
My first show with them was at an arena, and really with Steely Dan, we hadn't played any places this big, yet. We played a lot of theaters and smaller, kind of venues. Steely Dan went on, of course, later to play huge places, but with the Doobies, they were a bona fide touring rock and roll band,
no kidding.
and as big as it got back then, and. First show, I remember my dad lived in New Orleans at the time, so I hooked up with my dad. We had lunch, and at the end of my rehearsals...
When he told the story first time, he says, my dad and I, and it was a circular arena. He said, and there's no back door on a round building. And he goes, sir, he just had to pick, you had a map, and you're running around a building, and your father goes, are you sure you got the job? Because... Which is like perfect. You need your dad in the car to go, I don't think you're in this band, Mike.
Well,
they would have let you in if you were in the band. They would tell you where to go.
And my dad, everything for him was like, who's paying for this? That was his take on everything, you know. He watched all these people with their specific jobs running around, you know. There was
It was a
somebody
machine,
to take
yeah.
pictures. There was somebody to, you know, serve the food. There was, you know, somebody to tune the guitars, you know.
It was bigger than Mike and the Majestics.
Oh, definitely, yeah. The last time he heard me play prior to this gig was at the Panorama Bowling Lanes, you know. So this was an eye-opener to both of us, you
Wow.
know. And even before showtime, the road manager said, "Does your dad want to sit on stage and watch the show?" I said, "Sure," you know. So my dad goes up and sits on stage, and nobody knows me, so I sat next to him while the house lights were up,
Sure.
you know. All of a sudden, the house lights go out, and this roar, this crowd just roars. And my dad and I both kind of went, you know. And I got up when the band walked by me and just followed them out on stage. And sat at my piano with all my Post-it notes, you know. And
I should go with them.
yeah. And we started playing, you know, and it was like being strapped to an Atlas rocket, you know, on the nose of an Atlas rocket, you know, and it was just such an amazing experience to hear the reaction of the crowd.
I bet, Jesus. So now you're a Doobie. How did that work out for you?
Well, it was kind of under the radar, yeah. You know, yeah.
How did that work
at
out for
point
them,
in
by the
time,
way?
yeah. I mean, I remember, you know, as you would imagine, there were people in the crowd when I would sing one of Tom's songs. You know, people go, "Who the hell's that?" You know,
Yeah.
"Where's Tommy?" You know, and you know, but you know, other than that, you know, Pat introduced me as Michael McDonald. You know, and I
Michael, you would never, yeah.
The last time I was called that was by a nun at grade school. You know,
You were just Mike. You always
I
Mike.
was always just Mike. You know.
Yeah. So it's his fault.
Yeah, so the next day in the paper, it said, well, the strange guy singing Tom Johnson's songs was Michael McDonald. And so it's kind of stuck ever since then, you know.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, no, sure.
Could have called you Ruth.
Yeah.
So now there's a whole thing. So now you're writing with the Doobies, and some of them you wrote yourself, and then you had some really interesting partnerships. So the song and the name of the book, "What a Fool Believes," which was a huge Doobie's song, that was yours. But it always amazed me, like songs don't like come out; they're not born fully formed, right? I mean, how did that one start?
No. Back then, you know, for me, I could be working on a song for years, you know, and some songs do come seemingly in 20 minutes or, you know, less. They
But
fall
that's
out
like
of the
the
sky.
rarity.
Yeah, and you never feel like you actually wrote it. You think, well, you know, it's some spirit from in a past life, you know, wanted to write a song, and you know, I was it, you know. But typically, I would have these pieces of songs, you know, and I would play them for our producer at the time, Ted Templeman, and I played him this little piano riff I had, and he said, "That's a hit." He goes, "You've got to finish that song."
We can, if we can take a quick pause, because we happen to have a keyboard here. Perhaps you
sure,
can tell us. We'll take a quick pause and play this. We were talking about "What a Fool Believes," so that song was not a quickie. "What a Fool Believes" took a while.
No. I
Ted Templeman heard the riff.
heard this much.
Had that.
And I had some words, you know.
And you're sitting on it for a year.
At least a year, and I just could not finish it, you know. I couldn't think of what should come next, you know. So Tyran Porter, our bass player, Doobies, had run into Kenny Loggins, and Kenny said, you know, I really dig what you guys are doing. I like Mike McDonald's songs, and he goes, I'd love to write with him. Would you give him my number?
So here's the part that killed me. Kenny's coming over to write. You have it, and your sister.
So I'm playing songs for little bits of songs. I'm looking at pieces of paper, you know, and books, and looking for anything that might be a start, you know, because now I'm realizing I've got this world-class songwriter coming to my house, and I don't really have anything finished, or
Right.
you know, anything. I don't know what to play for him, so I'm playing it for my sister, and she's going, "Yeah, that's good. That's."
So she just hears that.
So I play her this, you know. She goes, "Yeah, I don't know if I would play him that one." She goes, "He might think you're writing circus music or something."
I don't think I'd play that for Kenny.
Luckily for me, you know, I was playing that for her just at the time that Kenny Loggins is about to ring my doorbell. You know, I go to the door. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Before you say anything, well, you were playing something just a minute ago. And I go, oh, yeah.
The circus music?
Yeah. Yeah. He goes, you were playing something a minute ago. He goes, I want to work on that first. And because he had already written
Standing at the door.
the B section of the
That
song.
kills me.
Before I even answered the door, his mind had gone to, she had a place in his life.
It's crazy.
He never made a thing twice. And then we started writing this because we didn't really know where to go. Okay, there's got to be a chorus here somewhere. And then nothing, you know. We both kind of knew that the gist of the song was going to be, you can't fix stupid, you know. I mean, that, you know, basically is the theme. It's like, here's this guy, and he's convinced that this is the way it was, and nobody's going to convince him differently, you know.
You can't fix
Not
stupid.
even the person that's the object of his, you know, of his love and admiration. And so somehow between us we came up with what a fool believes, he sees, no wise man has the power. We still don't have any music to that, but to reason away, you know. And so, okay, that's where we're going. And we've somehow found this key change. We've gotten this far, you know. What a fool believe he sees, wise man has a power, reason away what seems to be is always better than nothing. Nothing at all. Keep sending him somewhere back in alone. And that's how that song got written.
That worked out pretty good for you.
It worked out pretty
Song
good.
of the year. Yeah. I was a big fan of, as were many people, of your Motown records, which seemed like the most natural. You talked about this pivotal moment that your friend Chuck Sabatino. So now you're still kids. You're 12.
Yeah.
And his mother, I love this story. His mother worked at E.J. Corvette's, which is they don't have anymore, a department store, and they always had record departments in those stores. And he said, brought you down, and he introduced you to a song that ended up being like a big piece of your life.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, I was in this English Invasion band. We played, like, you know, the Kinks and the Beatles and Rolling Stones.
The St. Louis
Yes,
British
yeah,
band.
yeah, exactly. And so I went to
still
hear
thinks he's in the British band, yeah.
his band play because they had this really slick gig playing at the food court. At the
Oh, they were
DJ
playing it.
Corvette.
Right.
Yeah. And that was big time. you know.
Right.
So I went down there, and here's Chuck with this great band, and they had a 3-piece horn section.
Wow.
And they were doing all these great songs that I was just starting to become familiar with, you know, soul R&B songs mostly, you know. And here's this guy with this great voice, you know, it was one of the first people I ever heard that I thought, wow, that's the first white guy I've ever heard sing with that much soul, you know. I mean, so after they got done with their set, I went up and I'm talking to him, and he takes me down to the record department, and you could sample 45s back then, you know. So he's taking all these 45s out, you know, and the woman knows his mother, so she's letting him do it. And he's got a bunch of 45s, and he's putting them on one at a time, and he's playing me all this great stuff. And I knew the Temptations because they had a big hit at the time, My Girl. But I didn't know some of the other stuff by them, you know. And he played me this one song that stuck with me from that day on.
The Temptations.
Temptations, Since I Lost My Baby. I love that song.
Perhaps, and I'm just pitching, maybe you could play it. The way Michael McDonald does it.
Birds are singing, children are playing.
those working bosses are paid. Not a sad word of young heart is saying. Fun is a boy and with money I'm poor. Since I lost my baby, since I lost my baby, next time I'll be kinder. Won't you please let me find her? Someone please remind her of the love she left behind her. Till then I'll be trying to every day be that much kinder. I'll find a reminder. Oh, determination is fading fast. Inspiration, a thing of the past. Don't know how my hope's gonna last. What's good is bad, and what's happy is sad. Since I lost my baby, since I lost my baby, oh, I feel so bad. I feel so sad. Since I lost my baby.
Not bad.
I'll indulge your Holland.
Wowie, wowie. Taken into the streets. You were sharing about that. How that came out of a very sort of left field way, the way that, right?
Yeah, that was actually another conversation with my sister Maureen.
Thank God for your sisters.
Between my sisters, you
Yeah,
know,
it's everything. Without your sisters, you got
God only
nothing.
knows where I would have wound up in this
Really?
afternoon. But she was in college at the time, and we were talking about. She was doing a thesis, I think, on poverty in America and how, if we weren't careful, the ever-widening gap would, sink more and more of us as we went along, you know.
And you said, that's a hit.
Not just well, yeah. I always was prone to the morbid, you know. I had been writing a song that I knew was a gospel song. I thought it was, and my original idea for it was I would go someday to a church and record it with a big choir and a rhythm section, the kind that plays in church. And somewhere along the line in that conversation with my sister, I thought, well, that would be the perfect kind of like Take Me to Pilot, you know, kind of a metaphoric. Quasi-spiritual idea of
Set the music.
Just kind of telling it like it is. What better motif for that or underpinning for that than a gospel song kind of idea. So I didn't, I remember I was driving to a show one night and it popped in my head and it was driving me crazy as I wasn't near a piano to see if it actually was something that you could play on the piano, But in my head I heard this.
It's hard to picture without a piano.
And then I got to the gig and I thought, well, that's the verse, kind of. And I had some words, you don't know me, but I'm your brother, all that, and I knew it would go here, and I knew that eventually, it would have to just kind of break out into it. But I didn't know my sister and I. Our conversation left off with, more and more people are going to be falling through the cracks, And I think when I first thought of it, I thought,
take it to the halls of Congress, take it to the courts, you know. I said, no, you know, probably it's going to just be taking it to the streets at some point, you know. So I didn't really think that much about it.
Share that, if you would.
I feel so lonely right now. You don't know me, but I'm your brother. I was raised in this living hell. You don't know my kind in the old world. Fairly soon, time will tell. You telling me things you're gonna do for me. Anybody that feels like singing along, you know. I ain't blind, but I don't like what I think I see. To the street, taking it to the street, taking it to the street, taking it to the street. Take this message to my brother. You will find him everywhere. While the people live together, tired of poverty's despair. Oh, you telling me things you're gonna do for me. Yeah, I ain't blind. I don't like what I think I see. Taking it, taking it. We can make it better. Better for my brother. Better for my sister. I know we can. Yes, we can. I know we can. Taking it, taking it. You know the man said I may not get there with you. Show them we got to keep on walking. That's a flame of freedom. And we're about to arrive in a minute now. We're taking it, taking it. We are. We're taking it, taking it. I know we can, yes we can. Better for my brother, better for my sister, better for each other. Yeah, yeah. Take it up, take it up. Thank you. Thank you.
You know, it's like I always say, I think the band is slowing you down. We were thinking, since we're here in beautiful Nashville, that we should do something from Nashville. So you were talking about all these wonderful writers and artists that you worked with. One that I didn't know you worked with was Brenda Lee.
That's right. Well, and as
How
I
did
had
that-
mentioned to you, yeah, my aunts, you know, originally turned my sister and I on to Brenda Lee, and they taught us her songs, you know, Patsy Cline, you know, and Brenda Lee, you know, we love those artists, you know. And Brenda Lee was probably all of 13 when she made these records, you know.
But you were 11, so
Yeah, you know, and I remember listening to these, you know, we could have been a couple, yeah. Listening to these records. So I grew up with Brenda Lee, and when I got to Nashville, the opportunity, I met her, and I told her what a big fan I was for so many years, and she thought that was sweet, and so you know, I said, you know, I'd love to write a song for you someday, you know. She goes, well, you know, maybe we could write one together, you know.
That's crazy.
And I said, you're on, you know.
Yeah.
Well, this is one of the songs from one of the classic Brenda Lee songs that I always love to play.
Don't sigh for me. Don't ever cry for me. This is goodbye for me. I know it's true. I'm losing you. Love sang a song for me. Then things went wrong for me. The nights are long for me because I'm losing you. Our love and our devotion are deep as any ocean. Then one day, like the tide, you began to change, and you became a perfect stranger whose arms are holding you, sharing the loves I knew. I can't believe it's true that I am losing you.
I love so many of Michael's songs, and this one from his first, well, not his 18-year-old, but his first solo, grown-up solo album, the songs I Can Let Go Now.
It was so right, it was so wrong, almost at the same time. The pain and ache a heart can't take. No one really knows, but the memories cling, and they keep you there till you no longer care. I can let go now. It's wrong for me to cling to you. Somehow I just needed time for what was to be. It's not like me to hold somebody down. I was tossed high by the love, I almost never came down, only to land I'm no longer bound. I can let go now.
That's a killer. That is a killer. That is a killer song. So you talk all these. You've written with so many great people, and James Ingram and Paul Anka. But one of the happy accidents, and one of your big hits, writing with Carly Simon, which is again totally accident. You're recording with the Doobies, and she just happens to come by to visit.
I had this, kind of a riff again, and the only words I had were "You belong to me." It was just seemed like something to, but it was a. And I kind of had a melody, and I just mumbled the melody into a cassette, and I played it for Ted, and he goes, "Yeah, that's nice." He goes, "You should give this to Carly and let her write the lyric."
Nothing.
She just wrote this beautiful lyric, and I to this day I could shoot myself because I don't know where that handwritten lyric is. But she sent it back, this note and a little letter.
And it's all done. It was perfect.
It was done. It was perfect.
Well, we should do that, and then we'll let these people go home. Is what I think.
Why'd you tell me this? Why'd you look for my reaction? What do you need to know? Don't you know that I'll always be the one? You don't have to prove to me you're beautiful to strangers. I got love and on my own. You belong to me in this life. Anyone can tell, any fool can see who you lead. 'Cause I know you don't have to prove to me you're beautiful to strangers. I got love and on my own. You belong to me. You belong to me, baby. You belong to me. You belong to me, baby. You belong to me. You belong to me, baby. You belong to me. You belong to me, baby. Reiser on piano. I feel so lonely right now. You don't know me, but I'm your brother. I was raised in this living hell. You don't know my kind in the old world. Fairly soon, time will tell. You telling me things you're gonna do for me.
Funding for this series has been provided in part by the following:
Bang & Olufsen. Sound, craft, and design since 1925.